So, with the hype of Prey, surprisingly, which actually wasn't too bad of a film, I thought I'd go back and take a look at Predator Hunting Grounds and see if it's gotten any better. Now, some of you seem to really enjoy my retrospective Friday the 13th review, and seeing as Predator Hunting Grounds is also done by IllFonic and is sorta the same stylings of Friday the 13th, that and also being on a slight Predator high from watching Prey, I thought I'd go back and not only take a look again at Predator Hunting Grounds, but also see if it's gotten any better.
On second thought, no, not really, no.
Now yes, if you go through my videos on this channel, I've already taken a look at Predator Hunting Grounds when it originally released, and while the idea of a potential asymmetrical Predator game works really well on paper, the execution was pretty poor to say the least. Basically like the MCU after Iron Man died.
What did you say? I said I can't wait to own a fishing tank.
But has the game gotten any better? Well, not really, but it isn't as bad as what it was when it originally released. But if you didn't check out my original review, what is Predator Hunting Grounds? Well, it's a game that tries to recreate the premise of the original movie with you and 3 other friends playing as Marines, getting dropped into the jungle, you complete objectives and evacuate the area, but obviously being a Predator game, you're dropped into the Predator's hunting grounds. The Predator's objectives is to basically hunt down and kill all the players, while the Marines can either finish their objectives and extract from the area or try and take out the Predator. But if you want to know more, well then you can check out my initial review. But does Predator Hunting Grounds have some good new additions to the game? Well, yeah, it does for sure. Now, you can tell just like with Friday the 13th that IllFonic are a fan of the Predator franchise, and it definitely shows. Firstly, there are some new maps and there are some nighttime maps, like I suggested in my original video, go check it out. So it is harder to see the Predator at nighttime, of course. Now this was an issue when the game first launched, as every map at the time was during the day. Now when playing a couple of rounds recently and starting a mission at nighttime, I knew I needed to stick with my fellow Marines because hearing the clicking of a Predator at nighttime hits completely differently than it does during a day map. It does make it a bit easier though to track the Predator when you've dealt some serious damage to it, as it's much easier to see the glowing green blood of the Predator. But as a Predator for certain nighttime maps, yes, it is easier to blend in and hide. It's also easier to track heat signatures and to see, but I can also see it being an issue that if you're a Predator, it's harder to see if your mask gets knocked off. Secondly, the Predator does appear to have been buffed in regards to its damage output. Previously, when playing the game when I covered this game on launch, we'd ignore the main mission objectives like taking out a server room, and we'd deliberately keep our eyes open on the tree line and wait for the player to arrive playing as the Predator. But from what I've played now, from 2 years after its release, the Predator character or the Predator enemy or people playing as the Predator, it feels a bit more buffed, but it also still doesn't feel like what it probably should be. But there were moments while playing it during the week where I'd be concerned that my fire team members were running off and I could hear the Predator and not see it. Basically, the Predator didn't feel like the laughable excuse of a wasted property like it did when the game first launched, and it now feels a little bit more threatening. However, this could also be because there are fans of the game and of the series and they know how to play the Predator perfectly, or how to play the Predator in this game. Now when it does come to customizations, we've got more options and the ability to play as Predators from films. So previously, if you pre-ordered the $100 version of the game, you could play as the classic 87 Predator. From here though, you can also create your own Predator, but now you can play as the City Hunter from Predator 2 for an additional $10, the Wolf from Alien vs Predator 2 for an additional $10, the Falconeer,
Mr. Black,
and the Captured Predator, which is basically the 87 Predator skin with just a damaged face mask for an additional, $10 each.
but she's got a new hat.
But also there's some cool custom ones that they've made, like the Samurai, the Viking, and the Cleopatra stylings. There are also some new classes to play as in the Fire team. You can now play as Isabel from Predators, and she's got the trophies around her from Predators, so she has the Falconeer mask on her back and this Berserker jaw around her neck, which is really damn cool. But you can obviously play as now the main man himself, Dutch.
The Dutch.
From 1987 Predator, but he's also back a little differently. You can also play as Dutch in 2025, so basically Schwarzenegger now, and dude, look at him. He's battle scarred, he's got a wrist computer on, he's got a mask strapped to his damn shoulder. Just by looking at him, I'd immediately want to see another Predator film where we see Dutch, who's been chasing down predators since 1987, a bit like how, say, Ripley was traumatized by the events of Alien, and at the start of Aliens, she's just wanting to fucking chase the dragon. But even better, in this game that is not Aliens, but even better, Dutch is voiced by fucking Schwarzenegger as well, which makes it fucking dope.
It's September 12th, 1987. My name is Major Alan Schaefer, also known as Dutch.
The Dutch.
Now, what is even a little cool add-on too is the little Easter egg backstory pieces of information that you can find with audio logs from Dutch or Isabel, and that keys from the Predator survived the Project Stargazer facilities that the Predators fucked up, and that there was a Cleopatra Predator, which is the only Predator that Dutch has lost combat to, and for some strange reason, it spared him. Again, it's just filler background stuff, but it is kinda cool for Predator fans. But does new classes and some nighttime maps and Arnie returning and maybe some slight buffs to the Predator make the game good? Well, it makes it better than what it was when it originally released, but sadly, Predator Hunting Grounds still have issues that haven't been solved since day one. The game still feels like a clunky mess, just like how Friday the 13th felt like a clunky mess. For a somewhat decent property like The Predator, the overall feel of gameplay feels like a rushed movie tie-in game. The first-person combat of the Marines, while pretty standard FPS, they're still obviously nowhere near the level of polish or refinement of, say, something like Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege. Now, sure, you can say, well, they don't have the budget or they don't have the experience as, say, the developers of Siege, but if you're charging over $50 Australian, still to this day, for this game, then I expect a game that doesn't feel like dog shit. There are also some new weapons that use some of the Predator's technology, which is kinda cool, sure, but it also feels like a rushed first-person shooter experience. Personally, I think the Marines have too much information on their screen like a minimap, which is something they shouldn't have. A compass marker on the top of your screen is short and that's all well and fine, but it should be easy for a Marine to get lost from their fire team so a Predator can then pick them off. It'd make it a bit more interesting if you have a fire team member who rushes into the jungle to chase down a Predator while you and the rest of the team regroup. I mean, that is a core element from the first Predator film, that Dutch and his crew wander off and get separated, and that's how the Predator starts to pick them off. Having a minimap just sort of ruins it. But the Predator combat and gameplay, however, oof, it's worse than the Marines still. Now, during multiple playthroughs recently as the Predator, my Predator was jumping in the wrong direction, flat up refusing to run up and climb into trees, randomly going from sprinting to walking to crouching, and worst of all, changing what weapon I had equipped during combat.
Did you see that? Invisible. That's fair.
I can't, it's broken! It's broken! Anti-stall! It's off. Fuck!
One moment of gameplay, there are 3 Marines hiding inside a building, so I went, okay, I'll equip the combi stick so I can go in there and fuck them up. But as soon as I walked in after equipping the combi stick, for some unknown reason, I was using my wrist blade. So I had to pull out the weapon wheel and change my weapon to the combi stick during the middle of close combat shootout, and I died from this. Even some of the gadgets that the Predator has access to is pretty damn weak, like the net gun. We've seen in movies that the net gun constricts and pins a target in place, but in Hunting Grounds it just seems to incapacitate players for a few moments before they themselves can break out of it. One of the main problems though when the game launched was finding a game, and that's not really a problem now anymore. If you want to play as a Marine, it is about a minute wait, but if you want to play as a Predator, it's roughly about 8 minutes. But there is a player base here now, and it's either full of people who have never played the game before, and that's fine because they want to try it out, or it's people who are complete veteran players. For example, one map I spawned in at night time, I couldn't see jack shit with or without night vision goggles, and we didn't even make it to the first camp or settlement. The Predator found us stupidly quickly, like to the point where it wasn't even like we were playing Predator Hunting Grounds and we were being hunted as a Predator, but it was like the Predator was griefing players. Sort of like when you play Dead by Daylight and the killer has everyone on a hook within 2 minutes of the round starting. Now there are NPCs too, and they're still completely fucking broken. A Predator will be running around firing its plasma caster from treetops or from a roof, and the NPCs won't freak out and start randomly firing into the trees. They'll just continuously shoot fucking Marine players. So if you're hoping that's gotten any better, I'm telling you right now, no. Sadly though, with all the DLC available here, such as playing as Isabel from Predator or unlocking certain Predator skins, is by purchasing the DLC characters, you immediately unlock their weapons, rather than leveling up the character or the account and unlocking it naturally. So basically, you can spend additional money to unlock not only just the skins, but their weapons too. After I purchased Isabel from the Epic Games Store, I immediately had access to the Predator Tech Enhanced Sniper Rifle, and it felt kinda cheap using this weapon against a player. Basically, Predator Hunting Grounds has been given some new classes for the Predator and the option to play as some movie characters, and a few new maps or some adjusted maps to go into nighttime. It hasn't overly improved the gameplay itself. I will say, it's got an audience, and with the game now being crossplay with Epic Games, PlayStation, and now Steam, it is easier to find a game now. I doubt it would come to Xbox, but if it did, that would increase its player base even more so. Also, for anyone who's potentially upset by my thoughts on Hunting Ground now, if you're enjoying this game, then dude, right on, I'm glad you're enjoying it. But what I would like to see from Ilphonic if they ever went back to this, which I doubt it because they're working on a Ghostbusters game now, but unlike Friday the 13th, this game isn't stuck in a legal battle, so it can still keep getting DLC. But it could have been really cool to incorporate urban landscape maps, or maybe even a desert, or have heavy rain and sandstorms. If random environmental impacts happened throughout the game. If the temperature could rise in the game, so then you'd have a heatwave effect, so you wouldn't know if a Predator was off in the distance, or if it was just the heat. If rain could bounce off the Predator and maybe cause the cloaking to diminish a bit quicker. If there was a desert map and the Predator would have no trees to jump around and it would leave footprints in the sand, but a sandstorm could come in and blind the Marines. But sadly no, this game is still the same game set in multiple jungles. But final question or answer to a question that you might have, do I recommend Predator Hunting Grounds in 2022? And the answer is, only if it's on sale in my opinion. It's currently around the $40-50 Australian mark, and the DLC is about $10 a piece too. But if you buy it on sale and you've got some mates looking for something fun to play, then this could provide you with some potential or temporary fun.